Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be doing the Booktube birthday tag. This was created by Average Joe Reads, and I will put their video in the description so you can go see that. But basically, the point of this tag is to celebrate your Booktube birthday. And my Booktube anniversary was technically a couple days ago. It's the 4th right now, and I'm sure this probably isn't going to be up until the 5th or 6th. But that's my Booktube birthday. My real birthday was a little bit earlier than that, on the 18th of February, and my Bookstagram birthday was maybe a week or two before that. So everything is happening around February, I suppose. So I can go ahead and get started. Question number 1 is, how many years are you celebrating? I'm celebrating 1. This is my first year on this platform. I didn't know about Booktube until probably December of 2019. I was looking for LGBT graphic novel recommendations, and I stumbled across a few people's channels. I know for sure Cece from Problems of a Book Nerd is one that I looked at a lot, and soon after that I found Bookstagram, and I actually started on Bookstagram first. It wasn't until finding the nonfiction Booktube tag that I really had the courage to make my own Booktube, because a lot of the stuff that you see, I guess just regularly searching stuff, it's people with like super nice camera equipment. They've got a bunch of like YA books, and while there's nothing wrong with YA, I like to read it. There's nothing wrong with nice cameras. However, I read a lot more than YA, and I really have minimal things so far as equipment goes. But going into the nonfiction Booktube tag, I got to see so many people with so many different interests, so many different presentation styles, also different in terms of like equipment that they use. Some people had like higher quality stuff. Some people were just using like their computer camera. So that gave me the courage to really go out and do that, especially because I was enjoying a lot of their videos. Even if everything wasn't what I was interested in necessarily, I still liked to hear them talk about it. I might not read it, but I like hearing what it's about still, even if I'm not going to dedicate that much time. Yeah, after that point, I got on Booktube, and I've been there ever since. Question number 2 is, what has kept you motivated to continue making videos? Seeing other people post content. Like I said, I like seeing people talk about what they're interested in. Even if it's different from me, it's really nice to see, and it's also encouraging to me because, you know, if I like their content, there's somebody out there who's probably gonna like mine. And just in general, Booktube has really been like my crutch. Booktube and Bookstagram have been like the good thing in 2020. I know everyone's 2020 was trash, but mine felt particularly awful on top of the world being on fire. There was a lot in my personal life. Some of it was pretty traumatic. Some of it wasn't traumatic, but sucked a lot. And navigating mental health stuff. This was just like the one really good thing. So in general, the act of creation and Bookdernet itself was just my motivation because it was the escapism that I found. Question number 3 are, what are 3 of your favorite videos that you made in the past year? In general, I think some of my favorite stuff that I've done is like collaborations with other people. Doing the Rent Readathon was really great. Kathy Tridhart and I co-hosted that. So I do have videos up associated with that are pretty cool. I think we did a really good job with all of it, but in particular the tag was nice. But the actual like creating the prompts, that was so much fun. So actually putting it together and then getting to see people respond to it, finding other people who liked similar stuff that I like. I love seeing, you know, like intersections of people's interests coming together. So that was really great. Another thing that I participated in co-hosting was Bookstagram Pride. I'll put links to other people who participated. It was a pretty decent sized collaboration that was really just on Instagram, so I don't necessarily have a video associated with it other than like the wrap up. But that was a whole lot of fun. We put together a bingo sheet, picture prompts, and we held 2 read-alongs. And it was so much fun. I hope we end up doing it again next year. I still regularly, see the other people online. I'm really bad at keeping up communication. But a lot of people associated with that are, like, the mutuals that I look out for when I'm looking through stories and, like, seeing people's posts and seeing people like my posts. So far as videos that aren't associated with other projects, I really loved putting together the Mountain Goats albums as books video. I adore the Mountain Goats, and I had no idea what sort of crossover the Mountain Goats had with the Booktube community. And I found at least a couple of people that commented and said that they liked it, so there's at least some overlap of reading in Mountain Goats, or people who like one or the other well enough to watch the video. At least 50 people watched it, or at least it got watched 50 times. But that was really fun because I have such a big attachment to the Mountain Goats, and I have a really big attachment and a lot of the feelings to the books that I pointed out. So that was just a really wonderful crossover, and it was a chance to talk about LGBT books. All of the books that ended up being on there were sapphic, which is great. And then the final video that I'm going to mention is my HIV and AIDS TBR wrap-up. So far I've only got one up, but I put a lot of effort into it. I ended up recording it multiple times. I actually did a script that I ended up tweaking a lot. I haven't watched it in a while, and I'm thinking that the quality of it's probably not great, because that was during the time when I had to use my computer built-in webcam because my phone had died. Now I'm currently using another phone, which isn't necessarily the best, but better than it was, so I'm happy with it. But yeah, I put a lot of effort into that, and in general, I feel very strongly about LGBT history, especially that part of LGBT history that's just not taught, not looked at. I feel very strongly that more people need to learn about it, and part of why I did such an in-depth wrap-up, which it's in-depth, but I could have gone more in-depth because there was so much more in the books, but part of the reason that I did it was because I thought that it was really important. One of the books in particular, Moving Politics, I adored it, but I know not everyone can get into a really academic book like that. I'd like to do that more, breaking down stuff like that I know everyone isn't going to necessarily get into, but there's still a lot of really important content in it. So those are some of the videos I'm proud of. Question number 4 is, what have you struggled with on Booktube in the past year, and how did you overcome that? Biggest barriers probably been technology. Like I mentioned, the phone that I was using as a camera died, so I had to use my computer because my temporary phone, I might as well have been filming with a potato. Now I have this camera, which is good, or this phone with a camera, which is good. The back camera is better, but it like focuses or refocuses, and I don't understand how to properly shoot with it without being able to see the screen. Audio has also been an issue. With the computer, it was terrible because it would be in and out. With the phone, it's not as bad. I've been using free editing software, which hasn't actually been that much of a problem, because I found some pretty decent free software. Not that I know how to use it the best necessarily. My editing skills, thumbnail skills are not the highest, but I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. I thought that actually like watching myself and listening to myself would be a lot bigger of an issue than it actually ended up being, which is nice. I was really concerned about like dysphoria mostly, like having to see my face and hear my voice. But I don't have to use my customer service voice here. And that's really where I would have had a lot of negative feelings. So, it's been mostly good, mostly okay. There are days, but nothing bad enough that I've stopped. So, we're in good shape. Question number 5 is choose one moment from the past year on Booktube that you would love to relive. I would definitely like to be involved with more people. Doing the events that I've done again would be great. But those are things that I can definitely do in the future. Something that I want to relive that I can't. I would choose to read The Seep for the first time again. I read it during a week of reading vlogs, and it just completely blew my mind. It's definitely one of the best books of 2020, and I don't want to start rambling about the book because we'll be here forever, but that book seriously blew me away. I really loved the writing, the use of metaphor. There were just so many layers there. Days afterwards, I was just reeling. Like, if you watch the week of vlogs, you'll see the Seep vlog, and then even in the next vlog, I had to stop in the middle of what I was doing. I was running errands, and I had to take my camera, my really shitty phone camera out and talk about a realization, because I was just thinking about the Seep and realized that there was another chunk of metaphor that I hadn't unpacked, and it's just a really wonderful book. And yeah, if I had to relive part of my first year, it would be rereading that book again for the first time. Question number 6 is shout out a huge supporter of your channel. And this one I thought about for a little while, because I know that a lot of people who do support, I don't get to know who they are necessarily, because, people who watch and you don't really get to see that. But I do notice people who comment on here and interact with me on Twitter. So I've got a couple of people that I want to shout out from that. Tyler from Chaos of Tyler. I see him comment a lot. And Andrea from Penguin Stories. I see them comment and also interact on Twitter a lot. They both have channels that I would definitely recommend you go check out. And another person, I would definitely say Kathy Trithart. I already mentioned her. We collaborated on the Rent Readathon. Earlier on, she also reached out and asked if I wanted to be a part of a collab that she was putting together with a bunch of LGBT booktubers. That was really awesome. That was the first thing that I'd ever collaborated with anyone on, and that made me feel super accepted and included. I had a really small follower count, still have a really small follower account, so it was really cool to have someone that I had been watching and recognized reach out to me. And then she also reached out to me for us to work on a project that turned into the Rent Readathon, and she's putting together another collaboration that between a bunch of booktubers that she reached out to me about. So she's definitely made me feel supported and accepted within the community. Question number 7 is the best books you've read in the past year. Now, I actually have a whole series of books that were my favorite of 2020, where I broke it down by genre. I actually think there's a couple of those that I still need to make. We'll see what happens with that. But I picked a few from those that I'll talk about. These aren't the only genres that I go over, but I limited myself. So one of my favorites, I would say Transliberation by Leslie Feinberg. Leslie Feinberg was just incredible. If you have not already read her books, definitely go do that. Z was an activist, and this was a collection of some of her speeches. And all of this really focuses around, obviously what's needed for liberation from the title, but there were a lot of themes of solidarity that I just thought were incredibly important and are something that continually needs to be reiterated. I think especially, I say right now, but really it's discourse that's been had over and over and over and over again with gatekeeping and everything else. I think that LGBT people as a whole would do well to reach back to our history and actually see what people were saying. It's all very important. The language is outdated. Obviously, it was published in 1998. The language is going to be old because it's old. But this was incredible. I also read her book Stone Butch Blues, which is partly autobiographical, but it is fiction. Another incredible look at history, but a lot more triggering than this. I talk about this at length along with Alok Vadmanen's book, so I'll link that. But this was excellent. My favorite memoir of 2020 was In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is mostly told in second person, and it's very literary. A lot of the chapters are super short. They're like a paragraph or a few pages. But this tells about the author's experience being in an abusive queer relationship. But she frames this with information that's relevant to queer women who have been in domestic violence situations. She talks about the media, and she also talks about the way that queer women have been treated in the law. It was just incredible. I think I'm going to end up crying if I talk about it too much. But it's great. I would be surprised if you hadn't heard about it, because I saw a number of people talk about it towards the beginning of the year. I feel like this came out in 2019, so more people were probably talking about it before I got here. But I would highly recommend it. Moving to fiction, The House of Impossible Beauties. You want to talk about books that made me cry? Most books made me cry, but this book made me have to put the book down because I was sobbing so much. This is a historical fiction based partly on actual events. Some of the characters in this book are real people, and they were the people who formed the first all Latinx drag house. This is set in the 1980s, and it's multi-perspective, so you go and look into different characters' experiences. Joseph Cassara just nails the time period. I don't know how to describe it, you just have to read it, but it's like watching Paris is Burning or Pose. He just gets the setting so well. I also have a lot to say so far as the characters are concerned, and the way that he constructs the story, the way that the tone shifts so perfectly with the events. I can't say enough great things about this. Then finally, I have a graphic novel. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valerio-O'Connor. I actually read this twice this year. It tells the story of Freddie, who is in a really toxic on-again, off-again relationship with Laura Dean. And this goes through, and you see how Freddie interacts with the relationship, but you also see what the relationship does to Freddie's friendships, which I would argue that her and Doodle's friendship is just as central to all of this as her and Laura Dean's relationship. It gave me so many feelings. I've talked about this a number of times on this channel. I wish that I would have had this way earlier in life and internalized the message way earlier in life. It's basically a lot about not accepting toxic behaviors, and really the fact that you can love someone and know that you shouldn't be with them. You can love someone and still not tolerate them treating you like shit. This was really excellent. Like I said, I've read it twice already. I'll probably end up reading it again this year. It's very character driven. Most of the stuff that I really enjoy is very character driven. Next, we have question number 8, which is, where do you see your channel in a year, and what do you hope to have achieved? I don't have any specific plans. I still plan on doing the channel. I'm having a lot of fun. This is still maybe a little bit of a crutch, but definitely more than just a coping mechanism. It is genuinely fun. I like doing this, and I love the people that I've been able to connect with, and just in general sharing the books that I like and what I get out of them, what I learn from them. So in a year, I expect to be on this channel, hopefully living in a different location. I don't have anything specific. I have, like, general, like, I'd like to have more, like, educational wrap-ups surrounding some of the nonfiction that I do. I would like to do more vlogs, figure out how to do interesting vlogs, because I feel like I already speak in such, like, a robotic, I don't know, kind of way. I don't feel like I'm interesting enough to do proper vlogs, but I still do them. So maybe I'll get better at those. Who knows what will happen. The main thing that I want to achieve is just talking about more books, connecting with more people, having a good time, being a big gay nerd. I think that's what I said in my goals video. And then finally, question number 9, tag someone whose anniversary is coming up. I can barely remember, like, the birthdays of the people in my life. I'm not sure whose YouTube birthday is when, certainly. So I'm not really sure who to tag. If you're watching this and your birthday, your YouTube anniversary is nearby, if it just happened, if it's about to happen, if it's happening in 6 months and you want to do this in 6 months, say that I tagged you. That's fine. So that's what I've got for this video. I've been on here a year and it's been a good time. If you all have anything specific that you would like to see from me, with certain types of books that you've seen me talk about that you're most interested in, definitely let me know in the comments. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. Bye.